None of us are more than a car ride away from the country collection of birds featured in this guide. A little research will usually reveal reservoirs, rivers and lakes, bird reserves, or simply wooded countryside not too far from home. Some of the 24 species featured can be seen from the car window: the kestrel hunting the motorway verge, the rookery near the village church, the lapwing on the ploughed field. They're all there. It's just a question of opening the eyes a little wider. Great changes have taken place across the British countryside during the last century. Urban sprawl has claimed hundreds of thousands of acres of land. Modern farming techniques have dispensed with hundreds of miles of ancient hedgerows. Drainage has reclaimed huge areas of marshland and fen. In each case, wild bird habitat has suffered, and yet the British Isles still abound with birds. It shows their remarkable resilience, their ability to adapt to new situations. It shows, too, that the British people care. Bird reserves throughout the country, money raised to save vital habitats, the laws protecting birds strengthened. The production of this guide might not have been possible without such effort. These are the 24 species in the guide. Before looking at each bird in more depth, we'll run through the index. The number always appears on the screen. For quicker reference on a particular bird, just shuttle forward until the corresponding number appears on the screen. The number of each species also matches that listed on the video sleeve, so even without checking this index, quick reference can be made to a particular bird. Rook. It would be difficult to imagine the countryside without sight or sound of rooks, either in their windswept treetop nesting colonies or on the open fields of lowland farmland. The main task of the bird watcher is to try and separate them from similar carrion crows. Often, a good clue is the number of birds present. This rubbish tip is a good example. It's unlikely that so many carrion crows would be seen together. For rooks, on the other hand, quarrelsome, gregarious and pushy as they are, the situation is perfect. The adult rook has no feathers on the face and chin, leaving a pale grey patch which immediately separates them from other crows. Juveniles as well as adults have half legging made up from extended thigh feathers, which again is a good identification point. Although at a distance the rook is black, closer study shows a purplish sheen to the feathers. They feed on a variety of seeds and vegetation, but will readily take slugs, snails, leather jackets and wireworm, and, as we've already seen, human refuse, if convenient, also provides part of the daily diet. Rooks are with us all the year round, with numbers estimated at around 3 million birds. Lapwing. The lapwing, seen in the air, is a black and white bird with a beautifully bouncing, buoyant flight. It's also the best time to see those chestnut-orange undertail coverts and the black, broad tailband edged with white. Closer examination reveals the true colours of this familiar country bird. The back, viewed in good light, is a metallic green tinged with purple. Underparts are white, and there's a broad black chestband. These are winter birds. In summer, the throat and chin are also black. A familiar feature of the lapwing is a long crest extending from the black crown. This is much less prominent among juveniles in autumn. They winter on open farmland, marshes, flood areas and estuaries, and during harsh weather move to the coast in thousands and even further afield to find unfrozen ground on which to search for insects and worms. There are an estimated 200,000 pairs resident in Britain, and these numbers are swelled enormously in winter by continental birds. It's thought that at times around 1 million birds could be present. Wood pigeon. Quite a beautiful dove, the wood pigeon, but also regarded as a pest in rural areas. It's the most common and largest of the British doves. Among the wood pigeon's favourite foods are cereals, brassicas, peas, fruits and seeds, and if one considers that their presence in Britain is estimated in millions of pairs, the reason for their constant persecution by growers becomes more clear. Although they spend much of their time feeding on the ground, they roost and nest in trees, and they don't simply leave a tree when danger threatens, they explode from it with a great clattering of wings. They appear rather heavy birds on the ground, but they're powerful and fast in the air. At a distance they appear generally grey, but closer examination shows quite a variety of colour. The back is pale grey-brown, the head, back and black-tipped tail grey. The breast is a delicate pink, and there's a white neck mark on adult birds edged with green and pink. Town birds are much more approachable than the ever-harassed country type, so watch out for them too, in towns, parks and gardens. Carrion crow. The carrion crow is a British resident content to earn a living in literally any type of habitat. They can be found singly, in pairs, or in small groups along coastal cliffs, beaches and estuaries, on agricultural land, dense woodlands, mountain regions, towns, parks and city centres. The carrion crow is an all-black bird from the tip of its bill to the powerful feet. Unlike the rook, there's no bare area on the face, and the flight is rather ponderous compared with both rook and jackdaw. Male and female are alike. On the ground, the carrion crow has a decidedly swaggering walk. The food of the carrion crow is as varied as its habitat. In coastal areas, it will take shellfish, fish offal, and in the breeding season, the eggs of cliff-nesting birds and their young. Inland, seeds, berries, mammals, reptiles, acorns, worms, and insects all play a part in the diet. There's an estimated 1 million pairs in Britain, found in all regions apart from Ireland and northwest Scotland, where the grey and black-hooded species replaces the all-black carrion crows. Jackdaw. Although jackdaws have been placed in the country bird list, largely because of their tendency to congregate with rooks in open farmland, they could be termed a cosmopolitan species because both nest sites and habitat are so varied. They choose a hole or crevice in which to nest, and this could be in sea or quarry cliffs, rabbit holes, church towers, castle battlements, hollow trees, or even chimney pots in a town centre. The jackdaw is an intelligent, sociable bird whose ash-grey ear coverts and nape, rather sharp-pointed bill and fast wing beats distinguish it easily from other black crows. The jackdaw is widespread in Britain with the exception of the islands, hills and mountains of northwest Scotland. Nest material consists mainly of sticks, with the central cup lined with grasses, wool and hair. Both birds contribute to nest construction, and the site, usually in close proximity to other jackdaw nests, is often used for many years by the same birds. Magpie. In a nutshell, the magpie is Britain's only large-pied resident bird, with a graduated tail almost as long as its body. Bold white patches below the mantle, a white belly and white primary feathers contrast strikingly with the bird's black upper parts, breast, bill and legs. Seen in sunlight, the magpie's tail is a beautiful iridescent green. The magpie builds a domed nest of twigs. There is an entrance at the side, and the interior is lined with mud and grasses. Magpie numbers have built up steadily in recent years. It's estimated that around 250,000 pairs are distributed throughout Britain. They're, however, rarely seen in the Highlands and Islands of Scotland. The magpie will eat practically anything, fruit and berries in season, insects, carrion, and in the breeding season is notorious for stealing the eggs and young of other birds. The magpie's habitat varies considerably today. Farmland, woodlands, hedgerows, suburban gardens and town centres are all good areas for seeing this high-strutting species. Great spotted woodpecker. The great spotted woodpecker is a lover of both deciduous and coniferous woodland. Its size and bright black, white and red plumage flashing through spring woodland is a sight to behold. The male bird has a bright red patch on the nape. Both birds have red undertail coverts and a generally pied appearance. It must be emphasized that the great spotted is quite a large bird. If you still have doubts about separating them from the lesser spotted species, keep in mind that the greater spotted is the size of a song thrush and the lesser is house sparrow size and much less numerous. You'll hear the great spotted woodpecker as often as you see him in late spring and early summer. The powerful bill sends a territorial message through woods or copses by drumming on a dead branch or tree trunk. The great spotted woodpecker nests in a hole carved to a depth of about a foot. The entrance is oval, and the base of the nest proper a simple covering of wood chips and dust. They feed by searching dead and rotting wood, loose bark, and in crevices for the larvae of wood-boring insects, and it's not unusual for this species to rob the eggs of other hole-nesting birds. Kestrel. The kestrel is the most common bird of prey in Britain. Estimated numbers suggest a figure in excess of 100,000 pairs, with habitat ranging from city centres to mountain regions. They hunt by hovering and pouncing on their prey, usually small mammals, insects, and occasionally small birds. House sparrows in particular are favoured by urban kestrels. Favourite nest sites include disused nests of other birds, crows in particular, hollows in cliffs, quarries, and old buildings. A single brood is reared each year. The female kestrel is pale browns and buff, heavily streaked above and below with black. The tail, when fanned, shows strong barring terminating in a thick black band. The male is more colourful. A grey tail, again with a black band near the tip, and a grey head. The back and wings are a rusty chestnut marked with black spots. Underparts are a creamy buff streaked with black. Legs, feet and cere, that's the skin surrounding the base of the upper mandible, are yellow. Meadow pipit. Meadow pipits are among the most numerous of the British pipits. There are several million pairs, in fact. Members of the wagtail family, they can be found throughout Britain in a wide variety of habitats, ranging from mountainside to moorland, sand dunes to heathland. Their numbers and habitat make them prey to merlin, kestrel and hen harrier, and they frequently become hard-working hosts to young cuckoos. In winter, many enjoy a coastal habitat, following perhaps the success of their cousin the rock pipit by feeding among the piles of rotting seaweed driven ashore on spring tides. In colour, the meadow pipit is a rather unpretentious bird. An olive-brown back, tail and head, greyish-yellow breast streaked with black, outer tail feathers white, there's a black moustachial streak and a pale supercilium, that's the stripe above the eye. The legs are flesh-coloured rather than pink, and like all pipits, they walk rather than hop. Some British meadow pipits move south to France and Spain in autumn, but many remain feeding on pastures and coasts. One could describe the meadow pipit as a ground-dwelling bird because so much of its time is spent there, searching for spiders, insects and worms. Skylark. Wherever there's open country, moors, heathland, mountains or coastal dunes, you'll find the skylark. The cascade of continuous song created by the skylark in spring and early summer as it climbs into the sky can be heard throughout the whole of Britain. The familiar song has two distinct purposes, that of attracting a mate and, as with much other birdsong, establishing territorial boundaries. The skylark is a ground-dwelling British resident. Much of their time is spent searching for wild seeds, insects, spiders, worms and vegetable matter among tussocks and weed-strewn ground where their earthy colours blend superbly with their surroundings. Above, the skylark is streaked with browns, black and buff. Underparts are pale buff with dark streaking on the breast. The outer tail feathers and trailing edge of the wings are white. There is a crest which is not always noticeable. The fact that the skylark is, in colour at least, similar to a number of birds sharing the same habitat, it's best to establish identity through song. This is by far the surest method. Stonechat. A chance to see the stonechat is a delight, not just because of the beautiful splash of colour the cockbird presents, but also because it's an indication that the species has survived another harsh British winter. Much less widespread than in the past, this robin-sized chat is now more or less a coastal resident. They enjoy heathland, gorsy areas, cliffs and rough open grounds featuring low trees and shrubs. Good places to look for them in winter are allotments, railway embankments, golf courses and construction sites, especially in coastal areas where, by and large, temperatures are higher. The male stonechat in breeding plumage is a real beauty. Dark brown, almost black above and on the chin, with white patches at either side of the neck and on the wings and rump. The breast is a beautiful russet orange graduating to buff on the belly. The female's less boldly marked, brown streaked above with a buff orange breast. A good point to remember when separating stonechat from windchat is that stonechats have no supercilium, that's the stripe above the eye. Swallow. A metallic blue-black above, a blue breastband, buffish cream underparts and a rich red forehead, chin and throat are the colours of the swallow. They're the most familiar of Britain's spring migrants. A true country bird, the swallow hunts insects over pastures, open water and marshes, in fact anywhere where insects are prolific. Swallows spend their winters in the most southerly regions of Africa. Their return, in April, is traditionally a forerunner of the British summer. They nest inside barns, outhouses, garages or anywhere where wooden beams and ledges provide a support for their nest. This is constructed from pellets of mud collected in the bill. The open cup is lined with dry grasses and feathers. Both parents feed the young, and once they've fledged, another clutch of eggs is laid. Apart from the male's rather longer outer tail feathers, male and female are alike. Grey heron. A waterside hunter, the grey heron can be found throughout Britain. With purposeful stride, they stalk fish, eels, frogs and small mammals and have the ability to remain motionless for long periods before the stabbing yellow bill strikes. The colours of the heron seem to match those of the sky, which, at least from the point of view of their prey, is a difficult danger to detect. They have a white head with black eye stripes joining to form a crest. The neck and breast too are white and there are two broken black lines running down the front of the neck. The back and inner wings are grey and flight feathers are black. Legs and bill are yellow. In flight, the heron's appearance is rather bulky due to wide, rounded, hollow wings and because the long neck is drawn back into the body. The long legs protrude well beyond the tail. Flight movement is slow and ponderous. Despite their preference for hunting alone, grey herons are gregarious at other times. They roost, often in large numbers, amongst trees, and some of the larger traditional British heronries contain nests numbered in hundreds. Common snipe. The snipe is a bird of marshes, bogs and damp pastures. Although with us all the year round, the resident population is estimated at 90 to 100,000 pairs, their numbers are increased dramatically in winter by the arrival of thousands of birds from northern Europe. For the casual birdwatcher, it's quite a task to pinpoint this relatively small bird. Although not much larger than the blackbird, snipe are beautifully camouflaged in their natural environment. Plus, of course, the height of the marsh grasses give them perfect cover. One will usually pick out many other species, teal, widgeon, common sandpiper, before suddenly realizing there are snipe among them. Above, lines and streaks of warm browns, yellow buff and black break up the outline of the common snipe perfectly. There are crown stripes too. The bill is long and straight, red in color, darker at the tip. Male and female are alike. They feed by probing the soft ground for worms, earthworms in particular, and mollusks. Insects and some seeds are also included in their diet. Tufted duck. The drake tufted duck is a bold contrast of black and white. Black head, breast and back, snowy white flanks and belly. The eye is a golden yellow and there's a well-defined longish crest. The bill is a dark grey. In flight, there's a white wing bar. The female has a generally brown appearance with paler flanks. Although the crest is much less prominent than on the male, there is a tuft which shapes the head rather distinctly. The female too has a white wing bar and yellow eye. Tufted ducks enjoy a habitat of open fresh water, lakes, reservoirs, gravel pits and ponds, where their ability to dive from the surface enables them to take advantage of deep water margins. Their food consists of vegetable matter and seeds, mollusks and crustaceans. The resident population, estimated at between 6,000 and 7,000 birds, is expanded by huge immigrant numbers in winter from Russia and Scandinavia, an estimated 60,000 birds. Chiffchaff. The chiffchaff is so much like the willow warbler that it takes a real expert to separate the two by appearance alone. For the amateur or casual observer, recognition must come from the song. If it sounds like this, it's a chiffchaff. A burst of song like this means a willow warbler. The chiffchaff, like the cuckoo, is one of the few British birds whose name is taken from the song he sings. These tiny warblers are the first to arrive in Britain from their Mediterranean winter quarters, and for some reason they're also the last to leave in autumn. The chiffchaff's general description is that of an olive-brown bird above, buffish yellow beneath. There's a distinctive supercilium, that's the yellow stripe over the eye, but this is less marked and shorter than that of the willow warbler. The willow, too, is inclined to be more yellow than buff underneath. The diet of the chiffchaff is varied: moth larvae, gnats, caterpillars, greenfly and midges. Shoveler. The shoveler derives its name from an extra-large and very specialized bill, which is enormously helpful in identifying the bird in the field. The bill is used to sift plants, insect larvae and seeds suspended in the surface waters of shallow freshwater pools, flooded areas and estuaries. The drake has a dark green head and neck which highlights a bright yellow eye. Flanks and belly are rich chestnut and the breast is white. There's a blue leading edge to the inner wing and the speculum, that's the wing patch, is green. The female too is quickly identified by the very large bill, but plumage is, like the mallard, a mixture of mottled buffs, browns and black. During the molt, from July to September, the male looks very much like the female, though generally darker in appearance. Many British birds migrate south to France and Iberia in winter, and as they move out, so immigrating birds arrive from Scandinavia and Russia to enjoy our comparatively ice-free winter. Dartford warbler. The heathland habitat of mature gorse and heather, so beloved by this beautiful little resident warbler, has increasingly fallen to the demands of agriculture this century. And as though that were not enough to contend with, the harsh winters of 1947 and 1962 brought numbers down to a precarious half-dozen pairs. These days, the Dartford can only be found in the southernmost counties of England. Dorset, Hampshire and the Channel Islands are the main strongholds. Their fondness for open heathland habitat makes observation difficult because, apart from occasional bursts of song from high points of gorse, the Dartford prefers the safety and warmth of deep cover. Fleeting glimpses of this rather shy warbler show a dark grey, almost black bird with a long tail, fast-whirring wings, and an ability to use cover with great skill, even in flight. On the rare occasions they remain still, they show a dark grey head with a bright red eye-ring, a dark brown back, and underparts of a pinkish brown, in some lights almost mauve. The female is similar, but has a paler brown appearance. Juveniles are a light buff underneath. Wheatear. From south of the Sahara, the wheatear is amongst the earliest of Britain's migratory arrivals. Mid-March is a good time to look for these beautifully shaped ground-feeding thrushes on the rabbit-cropped grass of coastal downs, heaths and commons. The male wheatear in breeding plumage is dove grey above, the wings are black, and there's a black stripe running from the lores through the eye and widening to the ear coverts. There's a distinctive white rump too, which extends to form a noticeable wedge in the otherwise black tail. The breast is orange buff. The legs and bill are black. The female is brown above and creamy buff below. As with the male, the rump is distinctly white with the same white wedge shaping the black tail. The name wheatear is derived from the Old Saxon, white ass. It's a pity modern-day descriptions are less succinct. It's estimated that the summer population numbers between 50 and 100,000 pairs, which, once settled, enjoy open, uncultivated land, moors, mountains and hills. Linnet. The cock linnet seen here is dressed in the bright, bold plumage of the summer breeding season. Most males have started this change from the streaked browns of winter by mid-April. They add a delightful splash of colour to their gorse, heath and wasteland habitat, with crimson forehead and breast, greyish head, rich brown back and black tail and wings. There are white markings on the wings. The tail features a deep-cut V. The female, as is so often the case, boasts none of these colours. In fact, her summer appearance of brown above and buff below with heavy dark streaking is a good example of how both male and female appear in winter. Although there's a movement south to wintering grounds in southern France and Spain, the linnet in general is a British resident. It's been estimated that with Scandinavian birds arriving in the autumn, Britain has a winter population numbering over 3 million birds. As can be seen from the bill structure, linnets are mainly seed eaters, although chicks are fed with caterpillars, insects and spiders. Great crested grebe. The great crested grebe is a delightful aquatic bird whose very existence was threatened by high fashion in the mid-1800s. The bird's feathers, the frills and crest in particular, were used to decorate ladies' hats. So great was the demand that by the 1860s there were only between 30 and 40 pairs left in Britain. Their recovery, and today's estimates suggest well over 11,000 birds, reflects the tremendous success of Britain's bird protection laws. The great crested grebe is seen in summer on inland waters and rivers from the lowlands of Scotland to the southern coasts of England. Apart from sheltered coastal waters, in winter they're absent from the southwest of England. They're a diving bird whose diet includes fish, molluscs, vegetable matter, crustaceans and insects. In winter, they leave the smaller inland lakes and rivers, preferring the more open habitat of reservoirs, estuaries and sheltered coastal areas. Breeding plumage is distinctive: white cheeks, foreneck and breast. Upper parts stretching from tail to nape are dark grey-brown. The forehead is black and there's a double-horned black crest. The face is surrounded by chestnut frills edged with black. The bill is slender, finely pointed and pinkish in colour. Both sexes are alike. Teal. If you have the advantage of an observation hide overlooking inland freshwater, lakes or marshes, then you can enjoy the distinctive colours of the drake teal to the full. A chestnut head with a metallic green stripe covering the eye and running to the nape. The green is separated from the chestnut by a thin yellow line. Upper parts are lightish grey. There's an emerald green speculum, that's the wing patch, and a white stripe above the wing. Oh yes, and notice that creamy yellow panel on the undertail. It really stands out at a distance. The female is warm browns, buffs and greys, but can often be identified when preening or in flight by the green wing patch. The teal is the smallest of our British breeding ducks, not much bigger than a moorhen in fact. They're a gregarious species noted for their agility on the wing. When disturbed or simply taking off, they lift vertically into the air from the surface using very fast wing beats. They're a surface-feeding duck too. That's to say, they don't dive beneath the water in search of food. They prefer very shallow water with soft mud below, from which they glean aquatic plants and their seeds. Seldom, if ever, will you see a teal upend. Several thousand pairs nest throughout Britain, with the general exception of the southwest. These are joined in winter by an estimated 50,000 plus birds from Iceland, Scandinavia and the Soviet Union. Pochard. Winter is the best time to see the pochard in Britain. Actual British breeding birds are numbered in hundreds, and most of these reside in the southeast of England. But in autumn, thousands leave Eastern Europe to winter in Britain. They enjoy shallow water as a rule, where thick reed cover is close by. Aquatic plants and seeds provide a high percentage of their diet. The pochard feeds by diving from the surface of freshwater pools, ponds and lakes, and is a powerful underwater swimmer. He's not the most well-designed bird for a life on land. As can be seen here, the legs are set well back beneath the body, but this is typical of many species which earn their livings from beneath the surface. The male pochard is quite distinctive, with chestnut head, black neck, breast and rear end, contrasting clearly with the pale back and flanks. The dark bill is broken by a pale centre band, giving the impression of a black tip. The female is rather plain by comparison, a brownish-grey body with head, neck and breast a more general brown. Goldfinch. Yellow, red, black, soft browns and white make the goldfinch a splendid sight at any time of the year, but certainly not more so than when seen feeding on tall thistles in midsummer. The musical twittering song is often heard just before they descend on a thistle patch, and as they go about their business, the soft thistledown, cut neatly away from the seed by the perfectly designed goldfinch bill, floats gently down the wind. Look for the goldfinch among country hedgerows or open ground and wasteland, orchards, large gardens, and in autumn on stubble fields. Outside the breeding season, these colourful little British residents can often be seen in flocks, and the descriptive name for such parties is appropriately called a charm. Apart from the male bird having a somewhat larger red facial patch, male and female are alike, and although juveniles lack the red area when fledged, it appears at about 2 months.